Jody. This is the Whiskey Rebellion Barcast. I'm your commissioner, and hey, tonight I'm having some Stranahan's, and this is the Sherry Cast. I actually like this. What I like best about it's a single malt, and I typically stay away from those because that reminds me of the scotches and all that. However, this is made in, I believe it's made in Colorado. It's really, really good. It's a 94 proof, I believe, 47%. They have 94 proof. Carry the one. Anyhow, it's a lot of fun to drink. It has some great taste. As anyone who's ever been on the show knows, I love the Sherry Cast. This has got you can definitely taste the sweetness in it on the back end. It's not hot at all. I'd recommend it to anyone who is a novice drinker for sure. That likes flavor over a proof, but it does have enough to kick you, and you feel like, hey, you know what, this is pretty good. So has all the typical things you're going to find. It's not a very old whiskey. I would imagine it doesn't have an age stamp on it, but I would imagine it's not over 4 years. But it has been finished in Sherry Cask, and in order to do that, it has to be at least a good year to get a good taste that they have. So, guys, welcome to the show. Cheers to everyone. Hey, Rob, what are you drinking? And welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Well, it seems to be Colorado is our place to start. So I've got me a little Old Elk Ohio barrel pick. It's a straight wheat whiskey I'm sipping on tonight. So 115.4. So it's a little bit up there. It's nice, got a nice little heat to it. I really enjoy it. You can definitely pick up those wheat flavors in this with big time. And I like wheated bourbon, so I figured I'd like the straight wheat whiskey. And yeah, I could sit down and drink a few of these tonight after the day that I've had. So cheers.
I'm going to put you on the spot, Rob.
Yeah.
What is a wheated whiskey? What is about a wheated whiskey that you like? What is it?
I think it tends to be a little more smooth to me. The wheat smooth makes it a little more smooth to me. That's what I like about it.
Now I'm curious because Jay, I'm gonna go to you next, but I got a question regarding that because a lot of people refer to corn whiskey as having a much more mellow taste. So, how would you describe the two if you had to go into it, putting you on the spot?
Wheat and corn?
Yeah.
A wheat and a corn whiskey? Well, a corn whiskey is generally, all whiskey is going to have a large component of corn, right?
Right.
So the corn is going to be more prevalent in a corn whiskey. Usually that's a whiskey that's not as aged. So your corn by definition is going to be a sweeter thing. It's going to produce more sugars during that process, so it's going to be a little sweeter. I'm going to poke at you a little bit, Rob. I've never been great at understanding smooth. So wheat whiskeys, their second grain after corn is going to be wheat, and wheat is the grain usually that increases the sweetness of your bourbons and things like that. So wheated whiskeys, which I'm a huge wheater, that's why I asked you that. They almost always swing in that sweet, very sweet realm. And now the corn is going to taste very corny, very grassy because it's young, and or the corn sugars are very prevalent. So it's going to be, corn is a grass. People don't realize that corn is a genetically modified grass. So you get a lot of a grass note in a young or a corn heavy whiskey. So there you go.
Nice. I dig it. So what are you drinking?
Me? So yeah. I'm going old school tonight. So I've got a little Booker's Teresa batch.
Oh.
Booker no, Jim Beam Centauri. So it's a whopping 125.9. So
did you see that post on Bourbon Nation where someone had a 149 and they were asking for the hottest, what has been the highest proof they've ever had? And I was like, well, I know you had that backbone that was 147, I believe.
Yep.
I can't say that I've ever had anything over that I'm aware of. I mean, let's make sure we put it out there. I'm gonna preface that. that I personally picked up that was over a 137, 138, somewhere in there. No, 138.5. Yeah. So that's probably the highest I've ever had.
Is that a George T. Stag or something?
That's exactly
Stag
what
Junior?
it is.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's
yeah.
a stag. I actually have two stags and I have two stag juniors, but anyway, real quick back to Rob. What's in Old Shitty? Is Old Shitty carrying around some stuff with us tonight? It's over your shoulder.
Old Shady's got 2 bottles of Weller Special Reserve. I've got another weeder. I've got another Ohio pick. I brought the one I had last week. I forget top of my head. I've got the bottle of Texas bourbon that I had last week in there. I left that in there.
Texas bourbon. Texas bourbon.
TX. There's TX straight bourbon whiskey. It's actually it's quite tasty. I forget. Like I said, I'm in Virginia for 2 weeks, so I got like 7-8 bottles with me.
Nice. Jeff, come off mute. You're new to the show. He's going to be part of our discussion this evening, which is a fun one to discuss because of the quite the character that, well, how Jeff and I met, but also the aspect of the tonight's topic, which we'll introduce here in a little bit. But hey, Jeff, what are you drinking? And welcome to the show.
So at this moment, I am drinking some Maker's Mark 101, the what they put out, I think, every December.
Mm-hmm. The cast strength.
Well, no, this is the 101 proof.
Okay, gotcha. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, misunderstood you. Sorry.
Yeah, but I guess didn't realize it was weeded night, but apparently it is. So
That's funny you say that because my backup bottle that I have here in my office is 12 year. So,
but I chose it to start with in honor of our topic that we're going to get into, which I'll explain when we get into it.
very well. All right, John.
Big John.
So I pulled down 2. Just cracked this one open. This pinhook.
Is that the 4-year?
Yeah, 4
Yeah,
year.
that's really good. I got that.
Just
It's Castle and Key as well.
good, a little more spicier than I thought, but I think it's primary rye, if I'm not mistaken. And then I also poured a little small one of this. So I haven't had this before. Baker's. It's a minimum of 7 years. This one was at 8 years, 3 months. It has a nice dark amber color to it, so I'm really excited about that one. I'll get to that one next.
Nice. All right. So, Jay, what was the name of the place we went to the other day? Cigar bar.
Battleground South Cigar Lounge and Bar
In Columbia, Tennessee, which has fantastic, first of all, it's fantastic atmosphere. I mean, as long as you're not allergic to smoke like myself, it's a fantastic place to be. The owner is, he's a veteran and pararescueman, super cool dude. They have a great bar selection there. I mean, and quite honestly, the pricing on the bar was pretty much on point. I've been to a lot of upscale establishments, and I thought they had their price points at a very reasonable price for per pour, actually 2 ounce pours of whatever they had there, which included, I think they had Lot B, they had a 12-year, they had Pappy Van Winkle, they had all the BTACs except for Eagle Rare. And then they had a collection of everything else. Plus they had the Angels Envy, I guess, person that was there trying to sample rep that was there sampling some of their available spirits, and really smoky place that if you love cigars is right on point. And I will be honest with you, I will go back again. I'll go back in the spring when it's when I get outside and just in, because that front porch on that antebellum looking place was fantastic. So anyway, while we were there, I got the pleasure of meeting Jeff. And Jeff and I got into a long discussion about just different bourbons, and specifically it was Jack Daniels, and that was our take. And then he immediately went into this thing called puffering. And I was like, I have no idea. I'm a business person. I had no idea. I'd never even heard this term before. And so he introduced it to me. So that's how I want to start the show. I want you to introduce the term, and then we'll have a discussion about it, because I do feel relatively well versed on it now, because I've had 2 weeks almost to research it and to feel very comfortable with the conversation and the books that are associated with it, which are also available on Audible. Anyway, Jeff, take it away, brother.
So puffery, for those who have not heard the term or don't know it, is basically anything that is told about a product. Doesn't have to be bourbon, but it is very much a part of the bourbon culture. It's the story, it's the marketing, it's anything that you tell about that is not necessarily true or false. So bourbon has specific things that you must be accurate about. You know, the age statement, the where it's distilled, where it's bottled. There are certain things that have to be accurate. After that, you pretty much can do what you want to sell your product, as long as it's not intentionally misleading. So the reason I started with the Maker's Mark is it's actually one that has had to go through 2 lawsuits in the last few years based, and it won based on puffery. And it's specifically this part where it says handmade. They've actually been sued over using the term handmade. And in both cases, the judge ruled that it was puffery because no person with common sense would actually believe that they used hands to make a bourbon, that there was no machinery at all involved. And so it was ruled puffery, and thus they were not liable for lying over that thing. So if you go and you start looking at bottles of bourbon, you start reading them, you'll start to find these examples of puffery that's used over and over and over again. So like a bottle of Elijah Craig bourbon. You know, Elijah Craig has been touted as the inventor or the father of bourbon. Who believes that bottle of Elijah Craig is actually descended from Reverend Elijah Craig? It's puffery. It's marketing.
I was going to do the same thing. I was going to raise my hand.
Besides Jay.
Here's what's funny. Can I interject real quick?
Yeah.
So the legal doctrine says puffery is an idea of marketing and advertising that exaggerates and even lies as being acceptable and okay, as long as the average consumer would recognize it is bullshit, and therefore the claim is made as subjective, indefinable, outlandish, or impossible to prove. You're absolutely good to go with the puffery doctrine, legal doctrine, as your defense.
So I was
straight from the books. It actually uses the term bullshit in it, by the way, too. Just want to point that out.
Exactly. I was about to throw this bottle away because I finished it up, and I'm like, okay, Kentucky out. It's the wise man's bourbon. I mean, come on. Nobody's going to look at that and go, oh, if I drink that, I'm going to get smart.
It's kind of like smart water.
Exactly.
We've all seen that YouTube video, that girl who is hammering down smart water, and she's like, I feel like I can do math now. I'm like, no, don't think that's how it works.
No.
But anyway, yeah. So when we were discussing this, I was like, oh my God, I have no idea. This would be a great topic. I would love to discuss this, because it's not just in the world of bourbon. Bourbon's just been some of the ones that have actually set the characteristics for the legal definition of it. But some of the big things that were brought up were, like you said, handmade. Like how do you actually define handmade? Like, how does that happen? The other ones are some of the stuff we were talking in the pre-show, which are the artisanal or artisan or craft, small batch. Like, who determines what constitutes a small batch? You know,
Right.
And so on and so on. But it also goes to like Geico commercials. Think about it. 15 minutes save you 15% or more. Like, come on, really? You know, we going to believe it's only going to take 15 minutes. We've all been on the phone with them. You have to it takes 15 minutes to get through the daggum prompts.
You are ruining all of these wonderful things that I'm believing.
Or what about
Jay,
ancient aged bourbon or whatever? So what defines ancient? To me, that should be the oldest bourbon that there is, ancient. But we all know that that's per the legal doctrine bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but we do know that lizard is the one writing your policy.
Yeah.
Isn't Jeff ancient? Doesn't Jeff qualify as ancient?
When I get up in the morning, I feel like it.
Feeling like it now.
there's a good book out there that's associated with this that actually Jeff turned me on to. It's called Bourbon Justice. It's by Brian. We're not sure how to say his last name. Hara is what we're gonna go with, but it's Haara. He's an attorney, and he's out of Louisville, and he does this for fun, and he did a whole bunch of research on it, and essentially wrote the history of how essentially puffering was used in the world of bourbon. And he has one story after another, and it goes all the way up to, I think, 2015 is the latest entry he has. I mean, the book can't be current unless you're consistently building on it. But you think of all the big names that have been sued. Woodford Reserve is one. Been tested, I should say, legally for this. Maker's Mark, which we already talked about. The Barton Distillery. Then you have, Elijah Craig. You have everyone. Every one of them's probably went through it. I mean, I was thinking about this, and the only one I didn't have come up, and maybe Jeff, you've heard something that I haven't, but as we all know, you get onto any of the big four bourbon pages that are on Facebook on the Zucker, and you can come across this atrocious hate for Blanton's. And I realize what it is. It's actually for the secondary pricing, which I 1,000% agree with, but it is what it is. But I couldn't find anything where they have been sued, though that would be a Buffalo Trace using puffery. So do you know of any of that maybe I missed?
I haven't heard it, but that's my second pour is Blanton's. And I pulled it out because it says, "We believe this is the finest bottle of whiskey ever produced, affording you extra flavor, bouquet, and character." So pure puffery. There's no way. Part of what makes puffery is that there's no way to actually prove or disprove the statement.
Right. It's subjective, indefiable, outlandish, and impossible to prove.
Right. So that little paragraph is pure puffery because we believe this is the finest bottle of whiskey ever produced.
And this goes back to the dawn of marketing. If you go back 100 years, the old Sears catalog, and read some of these product descriptions and the miracle things that these products can do for you, this is nothing new.
No, it's not.
I'm still bald.
One of the things that fascinates me about it is it is steeped in bourbon lore. If you go and you read the history of bourbon, you read the history of the people involved, it was always about the story that they could create to convince everybody why theirs was the best, why they had the link to the true originator of bourbon, and why their water was the best because it touched this rock or came from this way, or
limestone.
Yeah,
it's not bourbon unless it has limestone.
And it's like, it has been a part of bourbon, and it's one of the things that makes bourbon fun. One of the others I picked out of my cabinet, Clyde Mays. So you read the little
huge
story,
puffery.
Yeah, and then you read the story, and it's like nowhere does it say that this is actually stuff that Clyde Mays made. But they also don't.
How you did that with a straight face, I don't know.
So it's like
He is Clyde May.
No, all I said, Jeff, was I interrupted you. I said, I don't know how you did that with a straight face, but And then Jeff said, or sorry, then Jay said he is Cloud Maze. So that was how come you could do it.
Right. So it's all fun. It's all fun and all part of it.
It is. So can you give us any? All right. So our conversation started with Jack Daniels.
Mhm.
So go into that.
Okay. Jack Daniels, in my opinion, is the greatest piece of puffery ever created, because they have most of the world convinced that they are not bourbon.
Uh-oh. Oh no.
And
You're about to get some hate mail?
probably, but I'm used to it because I've had this discussion on the Book of Faces. And yes, you'll get hate mail, but when you read the legal definition of bourbon, Jack Daniels meets every single point of it. And then when you read the section on adding an extraction of flavors to take it out of the category, it doesn't do that. So it is technically and legally bourbon. Jack Daniels did not want to be labeled bourbon. So when the laws were being rewritten after Prohibition ended through the next bit, the government was actually going to force Jack Daniels to use the word bourbon on its label because it technically, legally is a bourbon. Jack Daniels lobbied hard and finally convinced the government to not force them to use the bourbon. And then they've spent decades marketing that they are not bourbon, that somehow the Lincoln County process changes them drastically, despite the fact that there are a lot of bourbons out there that also do charcoal filtering at some point in their production period. And you have people that will argue up one side and down the other that they're not bourbon. And the only proof that they have that they are not bourbon is they'll link back to Jack Daniels marketing. The only proof, when you say, okay, prove to me that they are not bourbon, they'll go, well, here it says right on their website. I mean, there's videos out there of the former master distiller of Jack Daniels admitting that it's bourbon, and that won't sway them. It won't sway them when you show them the law. It won't sway them when you show them how it's defined under the North American Free Trade Treaty, that it is a bourbon. And yet,
But
your marketing puffery that has been brilliant.
ask yourself this though. Why does it matter? Why do people argue over such an obscure,
why.
odd puffery?
I know why it matters to me, because I'm the kind of guy that I believe in the legal definitions of things.
You want to be right.
Yeah. but here's the thing. It's like, ultimately, yes. My business, what I do in business is very dependent on the letter of the law. I deal in code compliant issues. And so the wording of the law matters.
But if you are right, what does it matter still?
Okay, it matters because I find it fun. That's what it is. I find it fun.
Dodge, parry, duck.
It's my little bit of trolling on the Book of Faces.
Trolling.
Well, at least he's honest there.
Oh, I'm completely, totally honest. But
in the larger scheme of things.
But in the larger scheme of things, no, it doesn't matter. And that's why it's like, I ultimately, whatever they want to believe, they want to believe. I just find it funny that people just flat out will refuse to, when shown the actual black and white truth, they don't want to believe it because of a piece of marketing. That's the other.
There's a name for that.
That's the other part of it to me, is because it's this piece of marketing. It's the puffery, which is just fascinating how invasive it can be. And it's just as hilariously fascinating to me.
Well, I will be one of those ones to be completely transparent and honest. Now I do not fall into the category of what Jay was getting ready to call those people. But anyhow, so that's how our conversation started. You were like, it's a bourbon. I'm like, it is not a bourbon. And it's just not. I don't care what you say. You're stupid. And it didn't go like that. I'm obviously being tongue in cheek here, because we had a very meaningful conversation. So much so that I, a lot like Jeff, do not like to be wrong. And so I started researching every little single aspect about it. And what's funny about the story he just played out was I watched that I think it was yesterday, on Bourbon Nation, on one of the big Facebook groups. Someone had said, Jack Daniels is a bourbon, prove me wrong, whatever. And of course, there was 12,000 comments and people talking about, and what you said was exactly what was being posted. It says right here on their website, they're not a bourbon, they're Tennessee whiskey and this, that, and whatever. And someone brought back the whole thing from the Master Distillery, where it was a YouTube channel, a YouTube link, where he was like, well, technically it is a bourbon, but we do everything by the guidelines of it, and and then they're like, no, it says right here on their website. And it's like they go right back to that. And I was sitting there going, that's exactly what puffering means. Right there. So
they are the master of puffery. They really are. Outside
of Sinatra, though, I still loathe everything about Jack Daniels, and I won't have them in my bar. But hey, I did your challenge, and I showed up, and I tried it, and I didn't like it.
You manned up.
And what's funny is you were there. I guessed that pretty close to the right proof too.
You did.
I said 135, and you said it was 132.5, I believe.
But I still think that you had far too many preconceived notions going into that.
Well, see, it's funny what you were talking about earlier regarding wheat having a sweeter taste. I never pick up the sweetness of like I love Weller, and I love all their products, and that is definitely a wheater, and I like Stag and stuff like that, and that's not what I typically pick out of them, is the sweetness, because I actually loathe anything sweet. I don't like candy because it's sweet, except for peanut M&Ms. I typically don't eat anything. I don't like cake. Like on my birthday, I'd rather have somebody make a meal for me than have a cake. That's just not my jam. Or banana pudding. I do like banana pudding. That's good. But that's not who I am.
Banana pudding with the vanilla wafers layered into it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, like you're supposed to with the type of like the banana that's almost rotten, not almost rotten, but it's been aged a little bit,
Very ripe.
Yeah, ripe. There you go. So, but I typically don't like. That's what I absolutely hate about Jack Daniels. To me, it tastes way too sweet. And when I was smelling Sinatra from the bottle, remember I said that to you on that show. I was like, this smells just like Jack Daniels. It's way too sweet for me. I'm not gonna like this. And then once it had time to open up in a glass, it was pretty freaking good. Now, see, it might have been that thimble that I had of that Jack Daniels that you had. Maybe it was just too condensed version of a pour. Maybe it needed to be opened up into a wider glass. But to me, it was just too sweet. John, you haven't said anything in a while, and I know you've been out cheating on us and stuff. But what have you seen some puffery about that you've had questions about that maybe has brought you to buy some bottles?
Well, I thought puffery meant something about puff pastries and bourbon. That's what I was hoping for.
Yes.
No, I had to look it up. I think the first time when you guys brought it up over the weekend or something, I had to look it up, and it's like, I'll have to ponder on that one. I don't know if I've been sold on puffery or anything. I've probably been. Well, I guess puffery could be people's opinions on
subjective.
Yeah, on different bourbons. Not bought on that, and either agreed with them or I'm like, once I drink with this, I may not buy it again. But so there's that. But the only thing I could think of is examples like maybe Kentucky Owl or Greenbrier whiskey. These were original recipes that went dark for decades, and then all of a sudden, Grandpappy's, recipe was appeared out of nowhere, and they started making it again.
On Burger does that too.
So
And the other one that does that is Beam Centauri released their old tub middle of last year.
I would
This was
also-
the original recipe made in our
Bill Mead does the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Backstories.
And the other one is, I would argue that not all, but the majority of, or close to the totality of the entire secondary market is puffery. And
I love the history and the stories behind a lot of these bourbons.
Yep.
It's
but
a-
what I was saying is your buying point on it as a consumer is heightened based off someone else's subjective want for it, whether they think it tastes great or they just want to get it for the collection, and it drives it, or what they've heard about it, or how it's what they were sold on now are heightening it, selling it to you, or selling it to others to drive up the price. So that desire, now don't get me wrong, secondary market's there because of demand. That's the reason why it's there. And some people have a small supply of it and they sell it. But I don't think you'd have that much if it, I mean, think about it. I've seen this meme and I actually believe this. Bourbon is the baseball cards of the 1980s. You know, think about it back in the day when we all, like, I have, and I showed it on one of the shows before, I have the entirety of the 1952 baseball card collection. And I have a lot of other baseball cards, a ton of them. And some are worth a lot of money and some are not. But if you were to go back to the 1980s, it didn't matter. All of them were worth tons to you because of that hope and that desire of what you think they're going to be worth 40 years from now, when they're worth exactly the same or less than they were back in 1980. So, you know, it is what it is. So I do believe that. I do believe that that's the reason why we had this conversation with Jack on here. Speaking of which, we want to make sure we send some healing prayers to him and his family. But we had a conversation with him. He's a collector. He mostly collects. And I think, Jeff, you had told me that expressively told me that you drink all your bourbon. And I'm the same way. And actually got that from Jay. All my bottles are open except for, unless they're a double, or if they're like, I have a new straight from the barrel and a different stag, neither one of those are open. And there's no reason to open them yet. Those are things you do like for those moments in life where you want to celebrate. Yeah. So, but for the most part, all my bottles are open, and if anybody were to come over, they'd be welcome to have I will pour them a drink from them, unless it's one of the ones I have multiples of. So.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I don't have time to get into collecting like some people do. I just want to enjoy.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you on that. I like that's kind of what we started this whole page about, was having the ability to have a discussion like we had. Like, don't get me wrong, I think learning the term puffery and what it means for me, because I'm a nerd anyhow, I find that to be fantastic, fabulous. I would love to sit and talk. I would do a dissertation on that. I think that is fantastic. All right. Yeah. But
well, the word is just fun to say.
Yeah. Well, it's not only that, like Jay had, where I was going with this, Jay had used the term smoothness. I had never understood smoothness. Also a puffery word, yeah. Because that's subjective. But what I enjoy about this show and what I enjoy about our group of people that get together is having these discussions about, well, one, just having the networking and having the opportunity to try stuff we've never tried, to be able to, send bottles to our buddies or samples or whatever they may be, and build relationships on bourbon, or to just go and hang out like 2 Saturdays ago when I went and hung out with you and Jay. Went to that place, Jefferson's, right there in Fairview, which was fantastic to eat. Mm-hmm. And then went to the Battleground Cigar Lounge, and I would have never went there. I'll be honest with you, I would have never even seen the place probably. I've driven by it 12,000 times. I live in Columbia, so.
Yeah.
and it's right there in the art district. That's really pretty area on top of that. And it's a beautiful place. And then, oh boy, he and I did a lot of the same type of work, and, that's a relationship and a network made. So that's why I like bourbon. And so I like to have open bottles. And then I love watching Jay not only give me 2 glasses of Nashville Barrel bourbon glasses, but he also gave 2 glasses and a bottle to the proprietor of Battleground Cigar Lounge. So that was fantastic. That's what makes it fabulous. What else you guys want to talk about? We kind of destroyed puffery, and I think we got a good.
Well, we haven't heard from Ron or Jay their favorite puffery.
Yeah. All right, Rob, go ahead. What's your favorite puffery? If you just want to say puffery, do it. It does feel good.
Fine.
Well, for me, I when I'm looking at bourbons, I'm not necessarily looking at stories on bourbons. When I'm buying bourbons, I'm buying stuff that you guys have talked about that may challenge my palate or sounds very interesting because it's something that appeals to my palate. I don't really look for something based on what somebody's saying about it. Yes, I do smoke a ton of cigars. And yes, that is what you will see puffery in cigars consistently, whether it's how they're the best smoke. There's so much.
So would that be puffery literally?
Yes,
Not
that would be
subjective.
puffery both ways. But I have a guy a good friend of mine who owns, if you've seen the Leaf and Bean cigars.
No.
Leaf and Bean, is produced by a friend of mine, a guy I'm familiar with here in Pittsburgh. He teamed with Oscar Vallardes, and they do the line Leaf by Oscar. And
I've seen those.
yeah, his cigar shop here in Pittsburgh is called the Leaf and Bean. So
Okay,
it's there's Leaf by Oscar. He's got three other makers that work with him that do some other things.
Yeah, I've had the Leaf by Oscar. They're good.
Yeah. One thing I love about that, he just puts it out there. There's no real puffery behind that. There's not. They put it out there as a really great smoke for a person who enjoys smoking, but they're not huge on marketing it. The things that they actually have in their marketing, they talk about. So the band that they have on all their cigars, you can smoke through the band.
Mm-hmm.
The band is made from the waste scrap of the cigars. So all the veins, when they're taking the vein out of the cigar, they take to a paper producer in the Dominican, or I think it's in Danley in Honduras. They make the paper bands for the cigars. They put it on there, and you can smoke right through that if you so choose. It does. You get a little bit of a different flavor, but it's not puffery because it's actually a true thing. So I wouldn't consider that puffery that they say, hey, you can smoke through the band, because they actually put out there what they do with the product. So, but I guess mentioned in the pre-show, I see puffery in food service all the time.
Oh yeah.
The food business is just absolutely huge for it.
Well, hey, perfect example is Stubbs barbecue.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily call it barbecue, but
It's true.
it ain't Cafe 305.
No, it's not.
So we're missing our Florida boy with the sauce tonight.
We are. Hopefully all is well done there in Miami. All right, so Jay, best puffery. Here comes Mark right now.
I don't know if it fits that literal definition of puffery, but when it comes to bourbon, the thing that sort of, the conflict involved in bourbon is kind of crazy. But sometimes the word of mouth and the rumor mill that goes around bourbons is also
Oak
can lean it. How did you read my mind?
Kentucky Par.
You know, Old Kirk is one that comes to mind. That's very popular right now, right? Old Kirk is everywhere. You hear it, see it. People are talking about it, and people constantly say, "Oh, you know, I have it from a good source that this is Willet." It's actually, you know, sourced from Willet, and then you have other people who say, "No, that's wrong. It's Barton."
So who is
So-
it from? Do you know? I mean, I have never tried it, so I
No,
want to make
we
sure
don't know.
I'm transparent about that. I've never tried it. It's just that I was like, all of a sudden one day on the secondary market, because I'm part of those groups too. It like pops up, and I'm like, tell us, old Kurt. Well, I never heard of this. I mean, my liquor guy calls me for everything. Like, he's like, hey, do you have you need a 600 bottle of Blanton's? I got one for you. I'm being somewhat facetious, but I mean, like that's how he is. And so so it's not like I would have missed anything, but he never called me about Oak Kirk. And I was like, what the hell is this? I honestly thought it was a joke at first. I thought it was like a make-believe bottle. I was like, and then that's when I seen it on the secondary market. I was like, people are really selling this? Did they selling make-believe bottles? What's going on? So let me look. And you know that most of the secondary market, you have to show your bottle and where it's at. And so I was like, okay, I got you. Yeah, I'm not buying that. I've never had that. Don't even know what that is. I want to try a sample of it. Now that I have a place to go try samples, one of them being the Battleground Cigar Lounge in Columbia, and then also Ernest Bar and Hideaway, fantastic place to eat and to try really good top shelf bourbon. You can do that. Now, don't get me wrong, you're going to pay for it at both places, but you're going to get a strong 2-ounce pour. I mean, I watched the proprietor to that shop pour my 2 ounces, and it went, he poured it into the 2-ounce thing, poured it in, and then he was doing this at the same time. So
Julian.
Is that his name,
Griffin.
Julian?
Julian Griffin is the
Yeah.
gentleman who owns it.
I couldn't remember his name. What's that?
Nothing like a little overpour.
It was 2 ounces.
So,
That's what tax records say.
so
Exactly.
Jay brought up sourcing. Is sourcing bourbon a type of puffery?
Yes.
Yeah, I would
Heck
say
yes.
so. Yeah, I would say
Well,
it is.
That's exactly where I was going.
So it depends on it, whether it depends on what they say about it. If they're up front, they're saying we're sourcing this, maybe not. But if they source it and then they go into the old family recipe that created this thing, blah, 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 blah.
And it's from Indiana.
Yeah.
But who cares?
It's built in Indiana.
Who cares though?
Now, hey,
What bothers
Indiana
me is
makes some great sources.
yeah, they do. But who cares? You know, if they give a great Clyde Mays backstory and it tastes good, what the heck difference does it make where it came from?
I know where I want to go next here in a minute, but I want to say hello to Mark real quick and welcome to the
Mark.
show, man. And what are you drinking?
Up, my brothers? Hey, what's up, my brother? Sorry I'm late. I'm just leaving the hospital and I'm back at the hotel. I literally walked in and signed straight in. My shoes are still on, my feet are tired. I'm tired, and I am sipping. This is my last larceny. That's it.
Yummy. Weeder night.
That's another
Oh,
treat.
by the way, that's a good puffery story right there, because allegedly that was a stolen recipe from what's it called? The back during Prohibition, and allegedly JFK was involved and all that. There's a whole backstory on that, or the Kennedy family.
Okay.
So I don't know if JFK was born yet or if he was.
Jeff, get on researching that now.
Yeah, really.
But it's actually in all the history books is a thing, history books of bourbon. They talk about the larceny story about how some agent stole it from. Well, there's links to Kennedy, but that's probably a QAnon theory or something. Who knows? But I'm just saying it could be. Who knows? But anyway, if we had that fan base, they're gone now. Anyhow, so
Gotta go, guys.
yeah, gotta go. Exactly.
Just like I can't be associated with this.
But when you were talking about I forget which one it was, Jay, that you were just talking about. My liquor store guy, oh, it's Clyde Mays, not my liquor store guy, different liquor store guy, has used puffery to try to sell me something before. Can you guys name a story where that's happened, like in your past, where someone said something? I mean, it happened to me recently with the Oh Heaven's Door. That's a $500 bottle of what's, it's Bob Dylan, and I'm like, Bob Dylan don't have anything to do with this, and he might have done some artwork. Who knows? And he was probably stoned when he did it. So
and he put some money in it.
yeah, he might be a stockholder or a shareholder.
Right.
What I love is, so this could probably fall into the category of puffery, but what I love is these store owners are the epitome of business people. They know exactly what they're doing, and I do not fault them. I'm prefacing what I'm about to say with this statement. I don't fault them for their methodologies. I don't care what the methodology is. If they sell their bottles at secondary on the shelf, that's their prerogative. They have to make a living for them.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people that don't like it. I can't say I'm 100% for it, but so prefacing what I'm about to say with all of that, I love it when these store owners will call you up or ping you and say, man, I got 2 bottles of this great stuff. It's, they give you the whole backstory, and you're like, they'll be like, it costs this. Do you want one? And you're on the spot. You go, yeah, that sounds really good. I think I will take that. And you go down there and you get it. And then a week later, you're talking to somebody and they were like, yeah, this guy pinged me and said he only had 2 bottles of this. And he sold me and my friend one. And I said, oh, 2.
Well,
That's a little off
real
there.
quick, one of the best puffery connoisseurs in the Middle Tennessee area is Tariq, your boy. He's gotten me not once, but at least twice.
You're gonna edit that out, right?
No, I'm not.
You better edit that out.
No, I'm gonna say it the way it is. So he got me at least once, twice, maybe 3 times. But anyway, he got me on. He knows that I like blends, so so when I come in, he'll go, I got a bottle of blends for you. I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna buy it. And this is back before I had a source that could get me by the case, and I didn't have to go through all this nonsense. But anyway, so I'd buy a bottle, and he was like, hey, but you have to pair it with this. I'm like, I don't want that. And it was Waffins, I think, or something like that. I don't know.
He doesn't want it either.
No, I know, but it was his barrel pick, or allegedly it was. And he was like, you got to get this with it. I'm like, I don't want that. Dude, I still have it downstairs. We're talking about like 6 years ago. I still have that.
Have you ever seen Weird Science?
Yeah.
Drink it.
Yeah. So that he's got me twice with Blanton's because he knew my weakness there, and he would pair it with something that he want to tell me this backstory on how great it was.
Yeah.
I'm like,
he's trying to get rid of it. That's all he's trying to do is move it off the shelf. It's a dead product, man.
Puffery marketing.
well, I mean, it's just like if he were to call me tomorrow and say, hey, look, this is where you have to be to get into the BTAC raffle. Okay, let's just do that today. And then
that's not the way he works.
I know, but I know, but I don't want to come down there and listen to a bunch of nonsense from anybody, not just him. You know, I love him. I really do. It's
so you don't want to play the game. You don't want to do the puffery to get the puffery.
No, absolutely. I do not want to do the puffery at all to get what I want. Yeah, I want to say it out loud.
We got to work on him, Mark.
Yeah, we'll get him offline.
But anyhow, we are 9 minutes before we go to the after show, and I know the after show will probably be pretty short tonight. But I do want to say, Jeff, I appreciate you coming. This was a fantastic conversation. I really, really enjoyed it. Really, really did. I'm glad. One, I'm honored that we met, had a wonderful lunch together. You and I had the smallest meals there that day.
Yeah,
I mean, I was like, wow, you guys ordering like for like 12 kids? Yeah, I'm like, do you guys have a car full of people I didn't see show up with you? You know,
I had oysters.
And Jay, I remember the meal. You want to go ahead and say
what else did I have?
You had chicken wings.
Oh,
and
come on, man. Oysters and some chicken wings. Come on.
And
that's it.
Fries.
Oh, I didn't eat the fries.
Okay, so if you order it, you just don't eat it. That's different. Okay. And you had a sandwich, and I had nachos. And then our buddy across from us, all like Andre the
Lee.
Giant over there.
Lee.
Yeah. He had, I swear he was ordering for a small Venezuelan family or something. I mean,
That guy bikes 30 miles a day. Okay.
No,
he
I
can
mean-
eat whatever he dang well pleases.
I mean, I get that. I'm not knocking him for eating it. I'm just I've only seen that twice. And
Plus he's 8 feet tall.
he is every bit of
Andre the
7 foot 12.
Giant.
Yeah, he is every bit of 7 foot 12. I agree with you. Ginormous
Jefferson's
man.
is good.
What's that?
I enjoy Jefferson.
Yeah, I do too. First of all, I thought their nachos were on point. He was like, I'm gonna get one of those. You want to share it? I'm like, no, I can molest some nachos. I just have that. He goes, and he goes,
Now I'm never having nachos again.
and
Thank
he
you.
he goes, he said, he goes, but it's on the appetizers menu. I'm like, I just watched some come out. They look like they're pretty good size. I can probably just do those by myself and I'll be fine.
Now I can't get Jody eating nachos out of my mind, you know.
And molesting his nachos.
Yeah. Hey, you call it what you want to. I call it what I want to.
Whenever y'all come back out to Fairview, though, you'll have to try Thompson's Kitchen.
You know, it's funny you bring up that.
Is that the steak place?
No, it was a food truck, and they just
they're meat and threes, aren't they?
Not really. They just have different.
Do you remember that one that was over in Cool Springs that me and you went to over there by Chick-fil-A? Well, we're having the dead silence. I dead this out. But anyway, it's a really good place. I forget the name of it, but it had meat and threes every day and they had specials.
Puckett's has a meat.
I love a good meat and three.
Well,
Puckett's
Puckett's is great, but it's not this place. This place was really good. This was like a true mom and pops. But anyway, hey, listen. So, and by the way, I want to make Don he's going to be one of my go-tos. I just enjoyed the atmosphere out there. And on top of that, I really enjoy that drive out there. I'll be honest with you.
Okay.
I mean, Jay didn't enjoy the drive back so much, but I enjoyed the drive out there. I thought it was fantastic. And well, no, he didn't. He was like, you're going to, so I called him. I'll get you back to Columbia so you can go to the Battleground Cigar Lounge.
Oh,
And he was like, I'm like, hey, when we get up there's the light at T's, I just need you to off of Carter's Creek, just turn right, and then I'll let you take the lead. He's like, we're going to go much slower.
Yeah.
he was going like,
mind the drive. He didn't like following Mario Andretti.
yeah, really. He should have been driving a Ferrari or something because he was going like 100 miles an hour down these.
Negative. For
Rookneck
all of our police friends, I always go the speed limit.
I was like, where did he go? And then we'd turn a corner and he'd be up there.
Hey, Jody, did Jay just employ a bit of puffery?
He did. Well, you did too when you said Mario Andretti.
Ah.
So anyway, guys, always fun. Let's stick around for the after show for a few minutes, but thanks for coming out tonight. Cheers to everyone. This was fun. Mark, I wish you could have got here sooner, but I understand your schedule.
Cheers, friends.
And love all you guys, and it's been fun. Peace out.
All right, brothers.